Welcome to the Lifeatarian. 360 degrees of life. In this space, Monique shares her personal journey. You will be inspired, encouraged, and empowered as you live your everyday life. Here's your host, Monique Monge.
Hello, my name is Monique Monge, and I am so excited that I have this opportunity to share the next few moments with you. I would love to spend this time sharing with you the occurrences of May 9th, 2017, which involved one text message, one phone call, 2 ambulances, 2 hospitals, 2 emergency procedures, 5 blood transfusions, and 5 pints of blood, all on the day I almost died. A young woman by the name of Brandy Norwood recorded a song entitled Almost Doesn't Count, and she was correct, so I'm not going to talk about that just yet. I'd like to focus your attention instead in the direction of faith, hope, belief, prayer, and therefore what is possible. Hebrews 11:1 tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. What does that mean? Faith is having confidence in something you desire to have or experience at some point in your life, and it gives you assurance that it will actually happen. Hope. Hope is an unfounded, ungrounded expectation of the future. So although you have no proof that it will manifest, you somehow possess the expectation that it will. Belief. Belief is the state of mind in which a person thinks something to be true with or without there being empirical evidence to prove that something is true with factual certainty. Another way of defining belief would be to say that it's a mental representation of an attitude positively oriented towards the likelihood of something being true. Prayer. Prayer is simply a conversation between you and the God of your understanding. When the practice of prayer becomes so ritualistic, symbolic, and time-consuming that you find yourself putting it on your to-do list, well, my friend, now you're in trouble. However, when you allow the contemplations of your heart and the meditations of your mind to naturally speak to God, it becomes second nature, and it will strengthen with time. Consistent consciousness of where your faith lies, what you hope for, what you believe in, and constant prayer will lead you to spiritual freedom. And spiritual freedom is nothing more than belief without boundaries. Wherever you are right now in your quest for spiritual freedom, you possess the power to exercise your God-given right to personal liberty in your spiritual journey to find your purpose and fulfill your destiny in this life. You own the ability to think for yourself without guilt. You are deserving of spiritual growth and knowledge in the absence of fear and unhealthy restraint, ties, and obligations. You inherited the power to move beyond the restrictive religious practices and groups to belief without boundaries. So you believe in God, right? But why do you believe in God? Were you raised in a religious culture? Were you brought up in the church? Were you in prison? Were you sick? Was someone you loved dearly dying? Most likely, my friend, you believe in God because at some defining moment in your life, someone that you trusted told you that you were supposed to believe in God. That's right, I said it. Someone told you to believe in God. When did you personally start to believe in God? Think about those questions for a second, and then I'd like you to consider something else. Do you believe God? Yes, that's a vulnerable place, isn't it? I completely understand how that feels, and I'm sure we've all felt that way at some point during this journey. But what I found is that the more I allow myself to engage in organic conversation with God, the less my thought processes were influenced by other people. This is where that ability to think for yourself without guilt comes into play. You should not be relying on anyone to direct your path besides the God of your understanding. No one should be telling you when to pray, how to pray, what to believe, how to believe, when to trust, how to trust, or whom to trust. That spiritual instinct is built in. You were born with it. It's naturally organic. You need to learn it, trust it, and then use it. In the late morning of May 9th, 2017, I took a trip to the grocery store to get a few items that I needed to prepare my family's dinner for that evening. I returned home, turned on my music, put on my apron, and began dicing a couple of onions. I placed them in a bowl and picked up a green bell pepper to begin dicing it as well. Out of nowhere, a feeling of total darkness and fear engulfed my entire body. I felt an overwhelming need to lie down, so I went upstairs to my bedroom to do just that. I sent a text to my husband to tell him that I was home alone and feeling quite ill. He did not respond to the text. Instead, he chose to call me. He asked me if I felt like I needed medical attention, and I told him yes, but I could probably wait until he returned home from work that evening. I ignored that dark feeling that was apparently telling me something was very, very wrong. I was nauseous and vomiting profusely. So I decided that I would try to take a quick shower, freshen up, and lie back down before my husband would get home from work. The next thing I remember was a teenage family member standing over me screaming, "Oh my God, that's blood." She called my husband and relayed that information to him, and he in turn called 911 to have me transported to the nearest emergency room. I remember being conscious as the paramedics carried me from our bedroom down the stairs out of our home and placed me in the back of the awaiting ambulance. I believed I remained conscious, vomits and blood all the time, until I heard the paramedic banging on the wall, yelling, "Lights and sirens, let's get her there, let's get her there." I think I lost consciousness at that point. I received an emergency procedure and the first blood transfusion, which stabilized me in the first emergency room. A member of the medical staff came in later that evening to inform my husband that our insurance company wanted to have me transported to one of their own facilities, and that would happen as soon as the blood transfusion had been completed. I was moved to the second hospital in the early AM hours of May 10th, 2017, where I would eventually receive a multitude of diagnostic testing. My husband was perplexed by the fact that I required and received a total of 5 blood transfusions. I'm still not quite sure if it was the initial shock, the overall trauma, or a combination of both that held both my husband and myself oblivious to the fact that I had actually lost that much blood and how much my life really was hanging in the balance. Maybe not until the physician who was in charge of my care asked me if we understood the severity of what had actually occurred and how close I had come to losing this battle. I survived what is medically referred to as hypovolemic shock due to internal hemorrhaging. My husband held on to faith and hope that I would be all right, and we believed we'd get through this ordeal together. I personally prayed for recovery, healing, and returning home to my family. After some devoted time spent in contemplation and prayer, I've learned that I need to trust my spiritual self more. We have a tendency not to trust our spirit when we absolutely should. That small, still voice inside of you is God speaking directly to your spirit. Have you ever had a time when you haven't trusted your spirit and found yourself in trouble? It was my spirit that led me to send that text message to my husband. It was my spirit that led me to go lie down in my room. It was my husband's spirit that told him to call me instead of texting me back. It was his spirit that led him to call 911 and have them come and rescue me from our home where I was quickly slipping into hypovolemic shock. I am glad that all these things happened on the day I almost died. I can't tell you how happy and grateful I am for the spirits that are obedient in spite of the resistant flesh in which they live.
So maybe I'll be here, maybe I'll see you around. That's the way it goes, almost doesn't count.
Hey Lifeatarians, welcome to the Lifeatarian. I want to give you a clear definition of what a Lifeatarian is because I'm a Lifeatarian, you're a Lifeatarian, we're all Lifeatarians. So a Lifeatarian is simply someone who believes fully in life and all that it encompasses. It really is just that simple. Thank you for taking this time to share this portion of the journey with me, and I wanted to give you an update on episodes that you can look forward to listening to during the month of January. This is the first month of our brand new year, and this is a brand new podcast, so welcome. You'll be hearing me talk about some real tough topics, including surviving the suicide of a loved one and what it's been like to raise 3 children who all have special needs. We'll be probably touching on one of my favorite subjects, which is blended families. Go blended families. So until next time, I offer you life, love, and light.